Chairman, thank you, General Mattis. Thank you, Admiral McCraven, for your distinguished service to our country. General Mattis, I wanted to ask you about the recidivism rate from Guantanamo. The Associated Press ran a story yesterday, which I believe is misleading, and the headline was, "Not so many Guantanamo reoffenders." The story said that far fewer detainees released from Guantanamo Bay have rejoined terrorist activities than previously reported. However, before this committee, this is an issue that I've questioned many individuals about it. Last year, Director Clapper said that the re-engagement rates from former Guantanamo detainees who were confirmed or suspected of re-engaging was 27%. In fact, just 3 weeks ago, he was before our committee again, and he actually said that the re-engagement rate of those who had re-engaged who were we've confirmed are in the fight or suspected to be re-engaging was actually increased close to 28%. I believe it's 27.9%. And of course, we've heard the same testimony from Secretary Gates as well as Secretary Vickers that the way that we calculate the recidivism rate is not just those who have returned, but those are just who have suspected of returning to the fight. One of the big issues we have, of course, is that it's difficult to determine who has re-engaged because we're so poor once they have re-engaged of reconfirming. We can't always reconfirm who's out there, who's back fighting us again, and often we find them when we encounter them in the battlefield or elsewhere. And so I want to ask you about two, in my view, one terrorist re-engaging us is too many. And the reason we've tracked both those who have re-engaged and suspected, because that is, in my view, a more accurate reflection of where we are with re-engagement rates. Two individuals I'd like to ask you about, General Mattis, who have re-engaged in the fight. That is Saeed al-Shahiri and Abdul Zakir, our former Guantanamo detainees who have been released. One became a leader in al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, and the other became a leader in the Taliban in Afghanistan. Both of these former Gitmo detainees have been actively involved against us and our allies. Can you update the committee on the status of these two former illustrious Guantanamo detainees and what types of activities they're engaging in against us and our allies?
Yes, thank you, Senator. On Shariri, he is the #2 man in al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula. That's in Yemen. He is their #2 military commander right now. He is engaged in active operations, and we can confirm that. On Zakir, he is a Taliban commander in Afghanistan, and again, engaged with us. I can get back to you with more specifics on what we picked up in a classified setting, ma'am. Not today, but sure. I can get back to you.
Just to put it, I look forward to having more detail on that, but just to put it in perspective, both of these individuals are engaged in activities to kill Americans or our allies, are they not?
That's correct, Senator.
And so I can't imagine how frustrating it must be, obviously, for our troops to re-encounter someone we've had already in detention. And so one of the concerns I've had is, what do we do if tomorrow we recapture them? In terms of where do we detain them to interrogate them? And Admiral McCraven, you testified before the committee last year that, for example, if we got Alman Azawahiri, that we couldn't hold him in Afghanistan, that we needed a place, a long-term detention facility, that would be helpful. Can you help me, both of you, where we are on that? And what would we do if we captured, for example, the two individuals we just talked about again tomorrow, in terms of interrogating them? Where would we hold them under the law of war? Have we solved this problem? Have we moved forward at all on it?
Senator, I am confident that we would be able to hold them. Each case is looked at individually, so I cannot tell you in advance how we would do it. But if if they're listening, I suggest they don't sleep well at night because we're after them. And we will hang on to them if we get them. I'm not quite certain where we'll put them, but we will be interrogating them, and we will, if they're alive, and we will do our best not to see them on the battlefield again.
But we don't have a designated facility because we're essentially not taking anyone else in Guantanamo, as far as I understand it, pursuant to the administration's policy.
There is not a designated facility, no ma'am.
And one of the concerns I have is we certainly can't hold everyone on a ship, particularly if we have to hold them in long-term detention. Would you both agree with me on that principle?
Yes, ma'am, completely.
So it's not clear where we would put them if we captured them tomorrow?
No, ma'am. We have captured, as you know, some people, Warsami and all, and we have been able to facilitate their transfer to a detention facility.
Well, I would hope that we would not bring those two individuals to the United States of America, because I'd have a hard time explaining that to my constituents when we have the availability of the Guantanamo detention facility. And so I would hope that wouldn't be an option, given how dangerous both of those individuals are. Do you think that's a good option, bringing them to the United States?
That's a policy decision, ma'am. It's certainly an option for the president to consider.
Well, why wouldn't we just use the facility that's secure at Guantanamo?
Yes, ma'am. I'm probably not the right person to ask the question, ma'am. It's a policy decision, and I have no reservations as long as we have a facility as far as where we put them.
Admiral, is there anything you'd like to add on this?
Ma'am, in the case of Asiri and Zakir, if they are captured in Yemen and Afghanistan respectively, then obviously we have agreements with both the Yemenis and the Afghans that they could be held in their country of origin. So right now, for those two individuals, I think that would be the likely solution.
Admiral, I just wanted to follow up briefly. When you were before the committee last year for your confirmation hearing, I'd asked you about Alman al-Zawahiri, and I asked you the scenario: if we caught him tonight in Pakistan, where would we place him for long-term detention? And last year you said you weren't sure what we would do in that circumstance. Has anything changed since then?
No, ma'am, nothing has changed since then.
Okay. Certainly we couldn't put him in Afghanistan. I mean, we can't take individuals who we've captured outside of Afghanistan, for example, in Pakistan or Yemen, and bring them to Afghanistan for detention.
That's our practice now, is not to do that. That's correct. It would take a government-to-government agreement, I think, to do something like that.
Where we already have existing issues where we're trying to resolve with the Afghans, obviously, on a secure way to deal with the detainees that they have now. And so thank you, both of you. Thank you.
Thanks, Senator Ayotte. Next is Senator